What is going on, boys and girls of YouTube? Today I wanted to bring you a little video to prep you for Season 9, the things you need to know going in to Season 9.
Yes, sir.
While there isn't a ton of crazy changes, there's a bunch of little ones and some additions that you really should know about. It's going to be key and kind of really important for you to know to make sure you're min-maxing and prepped for this patch that's about to hit tomorrow. That being said, I want to just label out the couple of things and then we'll go into them one by one. You've got the new obelisks, which are going to be a major gameplay factor. They're going to change the pace of the whole match, and they're going to be something that is very, very important for you to look at. You've got new actives. You've got upgraded actives. We're going to have to talk about when you're buying them. We've got the new glyphs, where they are essentially tier 4 items for 6. I think it's 6 or 8. It's 8 for 8 of the items. So 4 items got tier 4 versions where there's 2 of them. So 4 items turned into, 8 different options. Hopefully that didn't confuse it too much. We got the new crit changes, plus the nerfs to items that affects crit. We got the crit algorithm that changed. We've got the nerfed items, which are kind of like the ones I was talking about that kind of counter crit, like your spectral armor, which aren't gonna be as good anymore. And then we got the buff timers, which changes the pathing. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into those, talk about it, and get there. Before we do, Smite, high res, and Nexus. So we've been selling gems. You see down below the nexus.gg/weekend. We've been selling gems for Smite through that store. Well, from today until the 1st of February, the top sellers, I think it's the top 3, will get in-game content. So like I have an announcer pack in the game. You can get one of those, or you get a ward skin or something else. We're already number 1 on the store overall for the whole store. So as long as we can keep it up, we'll maintain that. We'll get something in game. So please, from starting today until then, start buying every time you buy gems. When the patch hits tomorrow and you want to buy the season pass, or you want to buy the game for your friend, buy it through that link. Buy some gems now for later and use them later, whatever. Just stock up now using the link nexus.gg/weekend. I'll put the link below. I'll put it in the top comment. Please, I want to make sure we get something else. Maybe we can talk a bit of giving us a skin or something. I don't know. We'll see if we can get there. We'll try. Hopefully we win it, take it all, and then we'll figure out what we can get. But with that being said, let's jump into it and let's get in. Let's just start up with those things we talked about. So the new obelisk, the biggest change coming to Smite. No new map. We got these obelisks, right? The obelisks are by the purple side of the map. There's 2, 1 on each side of the map. They spawn at 4 minutes. And when they spawn at 4 minutes, they buff camps on the map. And they also spawn camps in the side lanes. If you drop the side lanes, those count as 2 offerings. You need 7 to max out the obelisk and to spawn your little, what's it called? I would call it Little Jimmy. You guys have watched my videos. You saw me call it Little Jimmy. It is actually called some Indra Scepter, I believe is what it's called. So it'll spawn that. Whoever picks it up, it follows them around for 4 minutes, does damage to the enemy, heals towers, your own towers, and heals your teammates. Gives them HP 5, basically. It doesn't heal you. It gives you HP 5, so you regen a lot. So you want to be farming those side camps because they each drop 2, and then your camps around the map will get a little circle around them, a little marker to show that they will also drop an offering. Those drop 1. You gotta get 7, get the thing charged up, the obelisk charged up, you're good to go. You can steal the other team's offerings off of their obelisk. So you can run over there, stand in the circle, and pick up theirs. It'll send it over to yours. And if you trigger yours and get it fully charged, then you're good. Once it spawns, they can't steal it. So that's what's the core part of the obelisk. That starts at 4 minutes, and then every 4 minutes you need to be doing that. It's very important that you take control of that. The Indra Scepter does a lot of damage. A lot of damage. I've had it do 1,500 to a fire giant, 1,500 damage over the course of killing a fire giant. That's a lot just for an objective. Then you have the fact you can heal your objectives. You have clear speed is increased. Your poke is increased. Anyone else you're killing, any gods that you're targeting are going to take extra damage just because you have the scepter. Becomes very, very, very important for you to control. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the actives. So we've got a lot of changes to actives because there's now tier 3 versions of it. You got the tier 1, which we had before, tier 2, which is just reduced cooldowns, and then now the tier 3. On top of that, you've got a bunch of actives that got buffed as their tier 1 version, like Horrific now does reduced damage at tier 1 unless they change it going into live, but I don't think they will. Which that used to be an upgraded version. That used to be something you got off of upgrading it to tier 2. You've also got the gold cost. They said it was going to cost 1,100 to fully upgrade, but on the PTS it was only 800. It was 300 and then 500. I think they're going to stick with that. 1,100 is pretty steep, or maybe they misspoke in the patch notes. The 800 is more realistic, and that is something you have to kind of calculate into your builds. Now, because of how good the tier 3 actives are because of the reduced cooldown they get. I mean, we're talking their cooldowns on these actives are going down. It's like 110 seconds or 100 seconds. Pair that with the Relic Dagger and you're getting another, 40 seconds off, I think, with Relic Dagger, something ridiculous. It's 40 seconds. So you're bringing actives down to a minute or a minute and 10 seconds. That means every time you fight, you're going to have your actives up. It's going to be very important to upgrade them. You're going to be looking at upgrading them usually after your second or third item. Very, very common after your second or third item. It'll obviously differ depending on the god, depending on the active you want to get. But having those leveled up before 15 minutes is more than likely going to be very, very meta for you. And just controlling the game and making sure you're not behind. So be on the lookout for the actives, please, 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 please. Next up, we got glyphs, which are your tier 4 items, which are essentially just upgrades of Jotuns, Rod of Tahuti, Breastplate of Valor, and I think Heartward Amulet was the other one. They nerfed a bunch of these. They were very strong at first. They nerfed the breastplate one that was very strong, but both the breastplates are still viable. They're both still very good. Both of the Jotuns are still very good, depends on the god. Both the Heartwards are kind of questionable. You're going to see the one upgraded Heartward a decent amount because it converts your physical over to magical defense. So anytime they have 4 magical gods, you can kind of, swap it up. You have the Amulet of Silence, which is the other version, which will give you a silence effect, kind of like the, what's it called? Anchile. Both the breastplates, you got one that reduces it's basically an aura, reduces auto attack damage around you every time you finish casting your ult, which is pretty good. Then you've got the other one, which just makes you even tankier. You've got the Deathbringer. This is going to be probably the biggest one, and then we'll lead into talking about crit off of this. So let me talk about the other ones real quick then. You also have the Rod of Tahuti. A 1 upgraded rod drops on a meteor, but the thing is the meteor takes 1.5 seconds to cast to go off, and you can avoid it pretty easily unless you're locking them down. It's not easy to hit, and it doesn't do that much damage. The other rod is your magical power. It's every 40 magical power turns into 2% attack speed. This is going to basically add a super core item to all of your auto attack mages or any mages that are, ability based but benefit from attack speed, like Zeus. So you get gods like Zeus, Freya, Kronos, Oleron, Soul. All this item is just already a strong item for them. It's going to make them even more insane. Then we'll talk about the Deathbringers. There's no more of Malice. They took out Malice. They put it into this Deathbringer. And then they took out Poison Star. They put in this Deathbringer. There's 2 options. And Venom Deathbringer is broken. Anytime you crit on somebody for 2 seconds, they're slowed by 10% and their damage output is reduced by 15%. So you automatically are at advantage in that 1v1. Malicious Deathbringers, every time you crit on a god, your cooldowns are reduced by 1 second, except your ultimate ability. So there's going to be gods that can use both of these. You've got gods like Humbats and Naja that'll benefit crazy from Malicious. And then you've got gods like, any of your auto attack gods you choose to go crit on. If you choose to play Arachne, Mercury, whatever, will all benefit insanely from a Venom Deathbringer. Plus you have ADCs heavily benefiting from that. So about ADCs that need to hit a target 3 times, the first crit slows and then they just hit you 2 more times for free. Pretty game breaking, honestly. I think that item might be one of the best items or the best item in the game for most of the gods that you'll see being played. Now the crit changes. They changed the algorithm behind the scenes, the way crit works. And I've read how one of the devs who was pretty core in doing it described it. I've seen how people have broken it down, and I've played the PTS a lot where I built crit a lot. From what the algorithm is supposed to do, if you crit a bunch, you're supposed to crit less. If you crit less, and then you should start critting, it should maybe not even it out, but based on your percentage, it'll even it out, right? It'll be consistent. You won't have, 8 crits in a row. It'll be like 4 and then 4 no crits. But what I've noticed from playing more than everyone else, played a lot of the PTS, a lot of hours, crit with just a Deathbringer, which is 30% crit now, they buffed it, is insanely consistent. It's almost every other auto is a crit. That's how it was working out. I don't know if their algorithm's messed up. I don't know if that's how they intended it. But with just Deathbringer, I played Naja. I played a bunch of different gods where I just went Deathbringer. Crits are insanely consistent. And if that's the case, it stays like that, and you only need 1 or 2 crit items to be consistently critting. That's a scary thing. Just needing Deathbringer on someone like Mercury, Humbats, Loki, Naja, whoever, gonna be pretty hard to deal with. Plus, on top of that, they nerfed Spectral Armor. They nerfed a bunch of the actives that super countered auto attack builds. That's going to make crits insanely viable. Nobody wants to build Spectral now because it's really, really low. I think they put it down to 35% less damage. That's not much. Like, people are not going to be building that item. They will still build it sometimes because we've kind of built it into our meta, but it's not as good. Nowhere near as good. Crate is going to take over the meta unless they change something about this algorithm or they tweak some of the numbers. I don't know. Like, we don't get to see the actual algorithm, so we don't know. But it feels way more consistent than before, and it's a scary thing because if we go into a super crit meta, I mean, I'm down to play Mercury all day, but ADCs are going to slap, and it's going to be very frustrating to play against. Outside of that, there's the nerfed items. We talked about Spectral. They nerfed Warrior's Axe, so maybe we'll see, and they nerfed the cost of Bluestone, so maybe we see Bluestone come back into the meta. We saw Blackthorn get super buffed and then reverted and then super nerfed, so that item I'm hoping falls off a little bit. They've nerfed items like Mystical Mail, Pridwin, Bulwark of Hope. All those items got nerfed. Telkine's got nerfed. They buffed some of the hybrid items like Voidstone. Emperor's Armor is going to be way better for defending or pushing. Jade, Emperor's Crown is a little bit better. They've changed so much. Berserker's Shield got a crazy buff, so that's going to be built on gods like Holly, Bellona, Erlong, Shen, Gilgamesh. All those guys will be building that way more. They buffed Staff of Mirrodin and the passive part of Staff of Mirrodin, so it lasts longer. That's going to be a good item to be building. There's a lot going on right now. They buffed Obsidian Shard too, so that's going to be a core item you might be building earlier. They added more power to Rage. Fail Not got the cost reduced. The Deathbringer got buffed all around. It's cheaper, has 5% more crit, and has 5% more power, 5 more power. Nuts. Shadow Steel Shuriken got buffed. There's just a lot going on. But the core, the biggest thing, Atalanta's bow. I think they tweaked it afterwards. It's just crazy how many items got buffed. Like, I'm going through a quick rundown just for a reminder for you guys. Atalanta's now has crit on it because they took out the other crit items. They needed something to replace it. Hydra's Lament has went up in cost a little bit, but has 10% pen on it now, so that's an insanely good item. They buffed Devo Gloves a little bit, I believe, by 5 power once it's fully stacked. They buffed Silver Branch, so it has more percent pen. They buffed Golden Blade, so it has 5 more power and 5% more attack speed. Soul Eater has more power. Bloodforge costs a little bit less, and they added movement speed to it. There's a lot. And then Atlas got crazy buffs. So those are the items into Atlas probably being the best or a top 2 support in the game. He is ridiculously hard to deal with right now. It's going to be crazy once he's in a rank to see if he's getting banned all the time, because he probably should be. And then finally, the last thing that you need to know for all around the map, buff timers changed. Speed spawns earlier. Green? Yeah, green spawns earlier. They both spawn at 5 seconds. And then red, purple, and blue spawn at 10 seconds. And then mid camps don't spawn until a minute and a half. A minute and a half is a long time. They were spawning way earlier in last season. So this next season, they're pretty much non-existent for the first minute and a half, and you need to find other things to do. There's been 2 starts that I've seen. There's been one where the ADC and red start at the green buff and then do the red buff and then go about normal. It's almost like a normal start, except for they do green buff first because you have a little bit of a gap of time. Other side is the jungler doesn't have mid cam, so the jungler kind of just does speed, both harpies, and then either looks for a gank on a side lane or looks for some of the more neutral farm, like the small harpy on solo side, or creates some pressure, looks for a wave in mid lane. It's going to change. None of the starts you've seen are guaranteed to be the start. And over time, it'll probably get tweaked like it did last year. We had one start for like 2 months, and then a new start came in, and then that start lasted for almost the whole year. We'll see what stays and what ends up being the best. It's going to be exciting to just see people testing things and see where farm kind of min-maxes itself. But that's what you guys need to know going into this season. That is literally everything that is important that is going to change going in to Season 9 of Smite. I will be streaming. If you have any questions, come in and ask. And again, please do me a favor and make sure you guys check out the nexus.gg/weekend store. Buy anything you're going to buy for the whole year there now if you want to support, because I would love to have something else in the game. We have the announcer pack, but we'll be able to get a ward or a global emotes, or there was one other thing. I don't know if it's an avatar or something. You'll be able to get one of those things, which will be dope to have. We'll be the first community with 2 things in the game, essentially. Maybe they'll hook us up if we kill it and get a skin. I doubt it, but we'll try and push. If we are number 1, I'll ask them about it. So make sure we get number 1. Go use the store. Hopefully you guys like the video and it helps you a little bit. And I will see you on the video later tomorrow, the next day, and the next day.